Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this hour. Sensex and Nifty hit the highest level in a month as stock markets extend Friday's gains. Mid-caps outperform the blue chips. India experiences its driest August in 122 years. A JP Morgan report warns that food prices could come under more pressure in the absence of a near-normal monsoon in September and impact the inflation forecast. The Indian Met Department has forecasted near-normal rains in September. CNBC-TV18 News Break confirms Zerodha co-founder Nikhil Kamath increases his stake in gaming company Nazara Tech by investing 100 crore rupees. Kamath says he's looking to increase his stake even further and expects the gaming industry to grow multifold in 10 years.
What you create must outlive you. And there has to be passion, there has to be purpose, and there has to be process, there has to be trust and transparency as you build the institution along the way.
The institution you create must outlive you, says Uday Kotak in an exclusive interview after stepping down as the MD and CEO of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Kotak adds it's very important to preserve the essence of entrepreneurship, even in one of the most regulated sectors.
Cannot hide that I'm really a fan of cricket. I was even playing once.
You were playing cricket?
I was doing one in Fiji.
The president of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, signals his support to the inclusion of cricket in the 2028 Olympics. Also adds that the final decision rests with the organizing committee and cricket will have to compete with America's favorite flag football, softball and 8 other sports. That's an exclusive. Manipur police files a case against members of the Editors Guild of India using a law that has been struck down by the Supreme Court 8 years ago, among other provisions. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh accuses the journalists who are on a fact-finding mission in the riot-hit state of trying to create more clashes. Central Delhi to turn into a fortress as the national capital braces for the G20 summit. Passengers at 39 metro stations may face delays in entries and exits as some gates may remain shut. Delhi police says travel plans may get delayed due to security concerns relating to VIP movement. And China confirms that President Xi Jinping will not be coming to New Delhi for the G20 summit next week. The country's premier will attend in his place. All right, let's start with the day's trading action. Market extended Friday's gains. Nifty and Sensex gained close to 0.5% to end at 1 month highs. There's no stopping the mid-caps outperformance. That index hit new highs to end 1% in the green. Nifty Bank rose in line with the benchmarks. Shares of Kotak Mahindra were under pressure in today's trade. This after the bank's managing director and CEO Uday Kotak announced that he is stepping down. However, Kotak will continue as a non-executive director of the bank. The bank has appointed Deepak Gupta as the interim chief. Speaking exclusively to Shireen Bhan after his resignation, Uday Kotak stressed on the importance to create institutions with trust and transparency. He said, and I quote, "What you create must outlive you." He further emphasized on the importance of protecting the role of founders. He said, and I quote again, "It is very important to preserve the essence of entrepreneurship even in one of the most regulated sectors."
The bank is required by the Reserve Bank to have 3 senior positions step down no later than 31st of December, which is the chairman, managing director, and the joint managing director. So we are all in what is called the transition phase as per the regulatory guidelines. And since all 3 of us were supposed to be going out before 31st December, I felt it appropriate that we sequence the transition. And therefore, I took the decision and went to the board with my resignation. And the board has accepted my resignation. At the same time, has appointed Mr. Deepak Gupta in the interim as the Managing Director and CEO, subject to RBI approval. Mr. Deepak Gupta's term also ends on 31st December. We have sent in those names well in time to the Reserve Bank of India. And I would also like to clarify that the board has appointed me as a non-executive director on the board today. the requirement is at least 2 names, and the bank has sent 2 names in order of priority.
CNBC-TV18's news break has been confirmed. Zerodha co-founder Nikhil Kamath increased his stake to 3.5% in Nazara Tech by investing 100 crore rupees. Shares of the gaming company rallied in trade on the back of the news. Speaking exclusively to CNBC-TV18, Kamath said that he is looking to increase his stake further in the company. Meanwhile, Nazara Tech's joint managing director and CEO Nitish Mittersain has said bringing Kamath on board was a big success for the company.
Very likely, I'm looking at this as a really long-term thing and would love to engage with them more in the future, maybe increase and play the e-sport gaming thing through them. And the stake was about 1%. I think now it should be up to about 3.5%.
I think, from an India tech entrepreneurial perspective, Nikhil Kamath embodies, success and running a very profitable business, pioneering in his space. And from that perspective, I think bringing him on board was something we were very excited about.
Apart from Nazara Tech, Nikhil Kamath owns stake in many other companies in India. Hormaz Patakia takes a look at Kamath's various investments and how they have fared over the years.
Well, Nikhil Kamath, in an interaction with CNBC-TV18 earlier today, mentioned that besides Nazara, he has investments in other listed entities as well. So we tried to dig a bit of data and stumbled upon 4 other names in which he has a stake. But here are some other filters that we have put in place to come up with this data. First up, all of this data is available on the exchanges. Next up, the data that is available on the exchanges is in excess of 1%. Now, all the stakes are in the name of Zerodha Broking, and also that all of these stakes are as of June 30th of 2023. And lastly, a disclaimer that there may be other entities in which Nikhil Kamath may have a stake as well. So let's take a look at these 4 names, and first up is Federal Bank. Now, Zerodha's name in the private lender showed up in the list of shareholders for the first time in the September 2022 quarter. Now, as of date, Nikhil Kamath, Zerodha Broking, owns 1.06% stake that is valued at close to 350 crore rupees. Now, since September of last year, shares of Federal Bank have gone up by 16%. Next up is RBL Bank, which is already in the news because of Mahindra & Mahindra acquiring a stake in it. Now, Zerodha also has a stake since December of last year, and that 1.26% stake is valued at close to 180 crore rupees. Now, since December of 2022, shares of RBL Bank are up close to 30%. BSE is up next, and it just refuses to stay away from the headlines, courtesy its proposed share buyback and the action after that. But Zerodha had first acquired a 1.6% stake in BSE in September of 2020, which had gradually increased to 3.7% as of June 2021. As of date, that 3.7% stake is valued at close to 200 crore rupees. But the more interesting bit is that since September of 2020, shares of BSE have risen by a whopping 500%. Now, lastly, an interesting name that features in this list is Car Trade Technologies. Now, Zerodha's stake first showed up in the shareholders' names in March of this year, and that 1.2% stake is valued at around 30 crore rupees. But the interesting bit is that while Car Trade shares have declined nearly 70% from their IPO price, they are up 16% in the last 6 months, and that is from March of this year.
Right, thank you, Hormaz, for those updates. Moving on, Paytm founder and CEO Vijay Shekhar Sharma is now the sole significant beneficial owner. The fintech giant has told the exchanges that AntFin reduced its ownership from 23.79% to 9.90%. Resilient Asset Management, wholly owned by Vijay Shekhar Sharma, now holds a 10.3% stake in Paytm, taking his total shareholding to 19.42%. A sole beneficial owner is someone who holds at least 10% stake directly or indirectly. Indigo Airlines board has approved an order for 10 additional A320neo family aircraft from Airbus. These 10 aircraft are a part of the original 300 aircraft deal signed by the airline in 2019. The deliveries of A320neos have been delayed largely on account of issues with Pratt & Whitney engines. And speaking of Indigo, the airline's parent company, Interglobe Aviation, is looking to form a unit for financing aviation assets. The company's board of directors has approved the formation of the subsidiary with an investment of up to 30 crore. The board has also approved the issuance of corporate guarantees of up to 8,235 crore rupees to secure payment obligations for the entity. The State Bank of India has announced the integration of UPI with its digital rupee. The feature will be accessible through the bank's e-rupee application. It will enable central bank digital currency users to scan any merchant UPI QR code for faster transactions. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, the Minister of State for Electronics and IT Ministry, has said that the government is engaging with the industry to work out a timeline for migration to the digital personal data protection regime. The new law allows the government and private entities to access personal data without explicit consent under certain circumstances. Critics have also said that the law gives the centre immense virtual censorship powers.
We certainly look at transition as the shortest possible time required for a meaningful transition so that there is no disruption. We recognize that there is a move from an existing regime of data protection to a new, much more stricter regime of data protection. And therefore, there is industry that has come to us and asked us for a transition period. And we are open to considering that. But we certainly have no preconceived mind on what that duration of transition should be. But it should be the absolute minimum that is realistically required for such a transition.
Delhi will soon become a fortress as world leaders arrive for the G20 Leaders Summit. Over 1 lakh personnel have been deployed from 5 different forces to ensure security of the leaders. Some of the gates of 39 metro stations will remain shut from September 8th to 10th. Delhi police has warned of a delay in travel plans due to VIP movement. All online delivery services except medicines will be barred during the summit. The Manipur government has filed an FIR against members of the Editors Guild of India. This is in connection with the press body's report on the media coverage of the ethnic conflict in the state. The case has been filed under some IPC sections and Section 66A of the IT Act, which was struck down by the Supreme Court 8 years ago. Referring to the report as biased and misleading, Chief Minister N. Biren Singh accused the journalists of trying to ignite more clashes. 7 assembly constituencies across 6 states will hold by-polls to fill vacant seats tomorrow. This includes Tripura, where 2 seats are up for grabs. This will be the first set of contests after key opposition leaders resolved that they will be fighting the upcoming polls jointly against the BJP-led NDA. By-elections were necessitated in 5 seats after deaths of sitting MLAs. 2 other MLAs resigned from their respective posts. And it's time for a short break, but news and updates continue when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. India has experienced its driest August in the last 122 years. A report by JP Morgan has issued a warning that the absence of a near-normal monsoon in September could bring food prices under pressure. Santhya Gora joins us with more. Over to you.
Ashna, India witnessed the driest August in the last 122 years with a rainfall deficit of 36%. This has affected key kharif crops like soyabean, cotton, maize, pulses, coffee, groundnuts, coriander and other fruits and vegetables. On the other hand, flooding in states like Punjab and Haryana has affected paddy. Delayed monsoon and subsequent uneven rainfall affected sowing area under pulses and it dropped by around 9% as compared to last year. For paddy, the sowing area increased by around 4%, but experts say this is because of re-sowing in states like Punjab and Haryana. Experts say that floods continued even after re-sowing. That's why this increased sowing area won't help with the overall rice production. In 2022-23, rice production witnessed a 6% drop at 104 million tons as compared to 2021-22. Now all hopes are pinned on September. Though farmers of Central India, Western India and South Peninsula claim that it's too late now, the flowering window for most of their crops is closed. And even if it rains in September, it won't make a huge difference. But the experts believe that if September witnesses a decent rainfall, it can revive the Kharif crops. IMD forecast says monthly rainfall for September over the country as a whole is most likely to be normal, but for states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana, Maharashtra, Kerala, and parts of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Karnataka, there is up to 40% chance of below normal rainfall in September. A dry August affects Kharif crops, but dry August and dry September affect both Kharif and Rabi crops. Rabi crops depend on stored water, and dry August and dry September will affect key Rabi crops like rice, pulses, maize, potatoes, corianders, and other fruits and vegetables. Indian government data suggests that on 31st of August, live water storage available in 150 reservoirs across India was 23% less than last year and 9% lesser than the average of 10 years. The overall production of both Kharif and Rabi depend on September's rainfall, which will ultimately decide the food inflation rate in the coming months. A recent JP Morgan report states that as of now, price pressures are likely to remain contained and not broaden out. But if September doesn't witness a near normal rainfall, food pressures could increase and affect the inflation forecast. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Santhya. Concerning piece of news coming in. All right, time now for an international exclusive. President of the International Olympic Committee, Thomas Bach, sees India having the potential to host Olympics in 2036. Speaking to Shireen Bhan, he said, "Our door and hearts are wide open for India," adding that there is a strong case for India to be a potential host. Speaking about including cricket in Olympics, Bach said he's a fan of cricket and the game may make it to the Olympics if the organizing committee of LA proposes the inclusion of the sport in the meeting on 8th of September. Let's hear that interview.
You know, you talked about double-digit interest from potential host nations. And I want your comments on a statement that came in from one of the cabinet ministers in India, the Information and Broadcasting Minister, Anurag Thakur, who said that India will support the IOA's decision to bid. He used the word bid, but to potentially host the 2036 Olympic Games. Has there been any dialogue, any conversation with India?
Yes, we had sometimes a dialogue, and there were different indications from both the National Olympic Committee and but also from the government side. And this is a great news for the entire Olympic movement. You know, India is the most populous nation on this planet. India with let's say, a starting to flourish sports movement going beyond the more traditional sports and also embracing more and more Olympic sports. That's a real welcome initiative by India.
So is this dialogue likely to continue in a formal fashion when you come to Mumbai as part of the IOC session?
That's just up to India. Here, our doors and our hearts are wide open.
You know, since we're talking about India, I must ask you whether the possibility of cricket being included in the LA Games are we closer to a decision? Do you believe that would make sense as well?
No, it could make sense. You know, I cannot hide that I'm really a fan of cricket. Now it's in the hands of the organizing committee of LA to make a proposal, and then once we have this proposal, then the IOC Executive Board will take a decision. And
soon, I imagine.
From today on, it should be exactly a week.
In a week's time. But given the large interest that cricket generates, the eyeballs involved, the format, the T20 format, which is much more acceptable now to a larger audience, this should be a sort of, a six, wouldn't it, if it were to be included, to use the cricketing analogy?
Yeah. Now, of course, the T20 format was necessary. With the traditional format, we could not have accommodated cricket in the Olympic program. But with a T20 format, this would be very possible. So let's see when the proposal is coming. I think you can imagine from my answer what my answer to such a request would be.
You can catch the full interview with IOC President Thomas Bach at 9:30 p.m. only on CNBC-TV18. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18 for more news and updates.